Question 2, ordinary level, page 448. So basically the idea behind this is we're trying to work out what's the cost of producing products, where every product we make is different. So we're not mass producing exactly the same product every time. Each time is slightly different. So when we're pricing up the cost of a job, we'll have materials and labor go into it, but we need to share some of the overheads to every job that we do. So the overhead just for a business are the general bills we have to pay even if we actually don't sell anything. So businesses that were closed because of COVID, for example, would have had to still possibly pay insurance and other bills like maybe electricity bills, just so that they could keep things ticking over even though they're actually selling nothing and they're actually making nothing. So the share of all of those overheads has to be allocated to every job, and there are two systems that you could use to share these overheads. One is based on the amount of hours, labor hours involved in every job, and the other might be the number of machine hours involved in every job. So it depends on if the work is labor intensive or machine intensive. So with these ordinary level questions, we're asked to calculate both. So for the first one, the formula we're looking at here is to work out the absorption rate per labor hour. We'll have the overheads divided by the number of labor hours, and that will tell us how much we need to charge for overheads for every labor hour on any one particular job. So in this case, we have factory overheads 140,000, where we'll divide that by the number of labor hours. So we have labor money, okay, but down here they have budget of 15,000 labor hours. So that's 9.33, okay, and make sure that we kind of label this properly. So it's euros per labor hour. So that means if somebody comes in and they say, I'd like you to do a job for me, and I know it's going to take me 10 hours of labor to actually do that job, I'll have to charge this person to cover the overheads of the business. I'll have to charge this person 10 hours multiplied by this rate, which is the 9.33. So that's what's going to have to be added to their bill to cover the overheads of the business. So doing it per machine hour, it'll be 140,000 again. So that's the overheads, okay, divided by, and the number of machine hours is 20,000 machine hours. So that means it's €7, okay, per labor or per machine hour. Okay, so we will need to calculate, before we can calculate the cost of any job, we need to work out the cost of labor here, because I'm told that we're going to spend 90,000 on labor and there's 15,000 labor hours. So we need to work out how much is the cost per hour for labor. How much is my labor rate costing me? Okay, so the total labor cost in this case is 90,000. We divide that by the 15,000 labor hours. I'm just going to put a labor in front of that. Okay. So the total cost of the job in both cases. So we're looking at costing the job using the machine hour and the labor absorption rate. In both cases, the materials cost is going to be the same and the labor cost will be the same. It's the way we share the overheads that will vary from job to job. So the materials in both cases is €6,000. The labor, well, there's 140 labor hours, and we worked out already that the labor rate is €6 per hour. So we'll have the same then for both costings. Okay. Now, Okay, so now we need to share our overheads, and this is where we're going to end up with a slightly different cost because of the two different ways that we're absorbing overheads into all of our jobs. So the first one is based on machine hour absorption rate. So for this particular job, it says we're going to spend 190 hours on machines, and I multiply that by the machine overhead absorption rate, which we said was €7. So the total cost then of doing the job using that rate is 8170. Now, if we use the labour absorption rate, we'll have the labour hours involved in this job is 140 hours multiplied by the labour absorption rate, which is 9.33. So the total cost is going to be those three then added together. So we see we end up with a slight difference in cost depending on how we share out our overheads. Then once we've worked out the cost of the job, we can now work out the selling of the job using both rates. And we're using a markup of 25% on cost, so a markup. So I'm just going to quickly go down and just go through this. So we have markup or we have margin. They're ways of calculating profit. So markup is always a percentage of cost. And margin is a percentage of selling price. So that means that if we were going to do this, let's say this particular job, it says a markup of 25% of cost. That means that in percentage terms, okay, if I do this, I'm just going to show you markup. I'll show you margin. In percentage terms, if markup is a percentage of cost, then the cost must be 100%, the profit will be 25%, and that means that 125% will be the selling price. If we do it according to margin, the profit is still 25%. It's 25% of selling price, so selling price is 100% then. So that means that the cost must have been 75%. Okay, now in this case we're looking at markup, we're not looking at margin, but I'm just want to explain the two differences of that to you. So we've worked out here our total cost, so and we're doing this both based on machine hour and labour absorption rate. So the cost is going to be, for the machine hour, is the figure I got there, 8170, and for the other one it's 8146. The profit then, so this is the 100%, so the profit is going to be that number times 25%. So my selling price then is going to be those two added together. If I do it using the labour absorption rate, the profit is going to be the total cost times 25% again, and we add those two together, and that will give me my selling price. So a slight difference in selling price, and all of that is because of the way we have absorbed our overheads.